This book is called Spy School. This is written by Stuart Gibbs, and our publisher is Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers. Dedication is to my wonderful wife, Suzanne. Oh, and here's the acknowledgements. This is a story I've wanted to tell for a long, long time. I first thought up the idea of spy school on the playground in elementary school, and while the actual story has changed a great deal since then, my desire to share it hasn't. Therefore, I am greatly indebted to my wonderful agent, Jennifer Joel, and my equally wonderful editor, Courtney, for making this happen. Thank you both. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here is an email message. You can see that certain parts of it are blacked out. That's for the safety of whoever may be reading this, because again, it is spy school. Got to keep things protected. This is from the Office of the CIA Internal Investigations from the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. And it is to, and again, the name has been blacked out, who is the Director of Covert Affairs, the White House, Washington, D.C. This is classified documents enclosed, security level AA2 for your eyes only. As part of the continuing investigation into Operation Creeping Badger, the following pages have been transcribed from 53 hours of debriefings of Mr. Benjamin Ripley, aka Smokescreen, age 12, a first-year student at the Academy of Espionage. Mr. Ripley's acceptance to the Academy, while unprecedented, was sanctioned by, and again the two names are blacked out so we don't know who, but they are the director of the CIA as part of the operation. As Operation Creeping Badger did not proceed as planned given the events of, again, mysterious events we don't know, this investigation has been launched to determine exactly what went wrong, why it went wrong, and who should be terminated for it. After reading these documents, they are to be destroyed immediately in accordance with CIA Security Directive 16312A. No discussion of these pages should be tolerated except during the review, which is conducted in blacked out. Please note that no weapons will be allowed at said meeting. I look forward to hearing your thoughts, the Director of Internal Investigations. Chapter 1, Recruitment. Ripley Residence, 2107 Mockingbird Road, Vienna, Virginia, January 16th, 15:30 hours. Again, that stands for 3:30 p.m. Hello, Ben, said the man in my living room. My name is Alexander Hale. I work for the CIA. And just like that, my life became interesting. It hadn't been up until then, not by a long shot. That day had been a prime example. Day 4,563, 7 months into my 12th year of my mundane existence. I had dragged myself out of bed, eaten breakfast, gone to middle school, been bored in class, stared at girls I was too embarrassed to approach, had lunch, slogged through gym, fallen asleep in math, been harassed by Dirk the Jerk, taken the bus home, and found a man in a tuxedo sitting on my couch. I didn't doubt he was a spy for a second. Alexander Hale looked exactly like I'd always imagined a spy would. A tiny bit older, perhaps. He seemed about 50, but still suave and debonair. He had a small scar on his chin from a bullet, I guessed, or maybe something more exotic, like a crossbow. There was something very James Bond about him. I could imagine that he'd been in a car chase on the way over and taken out the bad guys without breaking a sweat. My parents weren't home. They never were when I got home from school. Alexander had obviously let himself in. The photo album from our family vacation to Virginia Beach sat open on the coffee table before him. Am I in trouble? I asked. Alexander laughed. For what? You've done nothing wrong in your life, unless you count the time you spiked Dirk Dennett's Pepsi with X-Lax. And frankly, that kid was asking for it. My eyes widened in surprise. How did you know that? I'm a spy. It's my job to know things. Do you have anything to drink? Sure. My mind quickly cataloged every beverage in the house. Although I had no idea what this man was doing there, I found myself desperately wanting to impress him. My folks have all kinds of stuff. What do you like? A martini? Alexander laughed again. This isn't the movies, kids. I'm on the clock. I blushed, feeling foolish. Oh, right. Water? I was thinking more like an energy drink, something with electrolytes, just in case I need to leap into action. I had to ditch some undesirables on my way over here. Undesirables? I tried to sound cool, as if I discussed things like this every day. What sort of... I'm afraid that information is classified. Of course, that makes sense. Gatorade? That'd be grand. I headed to the kitchen. Alexander followed. The agency had its eye on you for some time, he said. I paused, surprised. The refrigerator door half open. Why? For starters, you asked us to. I did? When? How many times have you accessed our website? I grimaced, feeling foolish once again. 728. Alexander looked the teeniest bit intrigued. That's exactly right. Usually, you merely play games on the kids page, at which you performed very well, by the way. But you've also browsed the employment and internship pages with some regularity. Ergo, you've considered a career as a spy. And when you express an interest in the CIA becomes interested in you. Alexander pulled a thick envelope from the inside of his tuxedo and set it on the counter. We've been impressed. The envelope was marked, to be hand-delivered only to Mr. Benjamin Ripley. There were 3 security seals on it, one of which required a steak knife to open. Inside was a thick wad of paper. The first page had only one sentence. Destroy these documents immediately after reading. The second page began, Dear Mr. Ripley, it is my great privilege to accept you to the Academy of Espionage at the Central Intelligence Academy effective immediately. I set the letter down, at once stunned, thrilled, and confused. My whole life I dreamt of being a spy, and yet, you think that it's a joke, Mr. Alexander said, reading my mind. Well, yes, I've never heard of the CIA's Academy of Espionage. That's because it's top secret, but I assure you it exists. I graduated from there myself. A fine institution dedicated to creating the agents of tomorrow, today. Congratulations. Alexander raised his glass of Gatorade and flashed a blinding smile. I clinked glasses with him. He waited for me to drink some of mine before downing his, which I figured was a habit you picked up after a lifetime of having people try to poison you. I caught a glimpse of my own reflection in the microwave behind Alexander, and doubt descended upon me. It didn't seem possible that he and I could have been selected by the same organization. Alexander was handsome, athletic, sophisticated, and cool. I was not. How could I be qualified to keep the world safe for democracy when I'd been shaking down for my lunch money 3 times that week alone? But how I begin? Did you get into the academy when you didn't even apply? Yes. Applications merely provide opportunities for you to tell the institution you're applying to about yourself. The CIA already has all the information it needs. Alexander removed a small handheld computer from his pocket and consulted it. For example, you're a straight-A student who speaks 3 languages and has a level 16 math skills. What's that mean? What is 98,261 times 147? 14,444,367. I didn't even have to think about it. I have a gift for mathematics, and as a result, an uncanny ability to always know exactly what time it is, although for much of my life, I hadn't realized that was anything special. I thought everyone could do complex mathematical equations in their heads, or instantly calculate how many days, weeks, or minutes they'd been alive. I was 3,832 days old when I found out otherwise. That's level 16, Alexander said. Then he looked at his computer again. According to your files, you also aced your STIQ exams, have a strong aptitude for electronics, and harbor a severe crush on Miss Elizabeth Paskernack, although sadly she appears to have no idea you exist. I'd assumed as much about Elizabeth, but it still hurt to hear it confirmed. By the CIA, no less. So I tried to divert attention. Stick exams. I don't remember taking those. You shouldn't. You didn't even know you were taking them. Standardized test, inserted question. STIQ, stick. The CIA places them in every standardized test to assess potential espionage aptitude. You've gotten every single one right since 3rd grade. You insert your own questions into standardized tests? Does the Department of Education know about this? I doubt it. They don't know much of anything over there at education. Alexander set his empty glass in the sink and rubbed his hands together excitedly. Well, enough chit-chat. Let's get you packed, shall we? You have a busy afternoon ahead. You mean we're going now? Alexander turned back to me, already halfway to the stairs. You scored in the 99.9 percentile on the perception section of your sticks. What part of effective immediately do you not understand? I stammered a bit. There were still 100 questions tumbling out in my brain, vying to be asked at once. Well, why am I packing? How far away is this academy? Not too far at all. Just across the Potomac and DC. But becoming a spy is a full-time job, so all students are required to live on campus. Your training lasts 6 years, starting in the equivalent of 7th grade and going through 12th. You'll be a first year, obviously. With that, Alexander bounded up the steps to my room. When I got there 20 seconds later, he had already had my suitcase open and was casting a disdainful eye on the contents of my closet. Not a single decent suit, he sighed. He selected a few sweaters and tossed them on my bed. Is the academy on a different schedule than normal schools? I asked. No. Then why are they accepting me now? It's in the middle of the school year. I pointed to the 4 inches of fresh snow on my piled on my windowsill. For the first time since I'd met him, Alexander Hale appeared at a loss for words. It didn't last long, less than a second, as though there was something he wanted to say but didn't. Instead, he told me, there was a sudden opening. Someone quit? Flunked out. Your name was next on the list. Do you have any weapons? In retrospect, I realized the question was designed to distract me from the current topic. It served its purpose extremely well. I have a slingshot. Slingshots are for squirrels. We don't fight many squirrels in the CIA. I want real weapons. Guns, knives, perhaps a pair of nunchucks? No. Alexander shook his head slightly as though disappointed. Well, it's no matter. The school armory can loan you some. In the meantime, I suppose this will suffice. He pulled out an old dusty tennis racket from the back of my closet and swung it like a sword. Just in case there's trouble, you know. For the first time, it occurred to me that Alexander might be armed himself. There was a slight budge in his tuxedo right below his left armpit, which I now took to be a gun. In that moment, the entire encounter with him, which had been merely strange and exciting so far, became slightly unsettling as well. Maybe before I make big decisions, I should discuss this all with my parents, I said. Alexander wheeled on me. Out of the question. The existence of the academy is classified. No one is to know you are attending. Not your parents, not your best friends, not Elizabeth Pasternak. No one. As far as they're concerned, you'll be attending St. Smithson's Science Academy for Boys and Girls. A science academy? I frowned. I'll be training to save the world, but everyone's going to think I'm a dork. Isn't that pretty much how everyone thinks of you now? I winced. Ugh, he did know a lot about me. They'll think I'm an even bigger dork. Alexander sat on my bed and looked me in the eye. Being an elite operative demands sacrifice, he said. This is only the beginning. Your training won't be easy, and if you succeed, your life won't be easy. A lot of people can't hack it, so if you want to back out, this is your chance. I assumed this was a final test, the last step in my recruitment, a chance to prove I wouldn't be dissuaded by the threat of hard work and tough times ahead. It wasn't. Alexander was being honest with me, but I was too caught up in the excitement of being chosen to notice. I wanted to be just like Alexander Hale. I wanted to be suave and debonair. I wanted to let myself in to people's homes with a gun casually tucked inside my tuxedo. I wanted to ditch undesirables, keep the world safe, and impress the heck out of Elizabeth Pasternak. I wouldn't have even minded a rakish crossbow scar on my chin. And so I stared back into his steel gray eyes and made the worst decision of my life. I'm in, I said. Tomorrow or later we'll continue with initiation.